Now we'll do a problem on Vogles approximation method, which is also known as VAM method. This is the third method of finding the total transportation cost. Earlier we have done two methods, that is northwest corner method, and then we have found out through least cost method. Now we'll go for the third method known as Vogles approximation method, or also known as VAM. So now we'll see. So for the same problem we will find out the total cost of transportation, so that we will know which one is better, as we have examined with the northwest corner method, as well as we tried this least cost method also. So we'll take the same table, and for the same problem we'll find out, so that we'll have better idea for comparison also. So the same table I'll be taking, the same 3 factories and 4 warehouses, the same way. And most of the times Vogles approximation method gives equal cost of least cost method, and very rarely it gives lesser cost than least cost method. The same way least cost method also very rarely give lesser cost than Vogles approximation method. But most prominently these two methods are used for finding the total transportation cost. Though the northwest corner method is a method, but it is not a scientific method. So these two methods are scientific methods. So in this we use a term known as row penalties and column penalties. Actually what this row penalty indicates and what this column penalty indicates is the penalty which we are going to bear, or the cost we are going to pay extra if you don't choose the least cost in that particular row or column. That is what the row penalty indicates, or column penalty indicates. So for this method we will choose the lowest cost in the row and next lowest cost in the same row, and we'll write down the difference, which we call that as row penalty. For each of the rows we'll be doing the same thing. That means each row we'll examine and identify the lowest cost in that row, and next to lowest cost in the same row, write down the difference. Similarly for columns also we will write the penalties. That means lowest value in the column and next lowest column in the same column. The difference among these two is mentioned as column penalty. So Column penalties purpose is also same as row penalties. That penalties give us an indication that in case in any event if we are not going to make allocation to lowest cost cell of that row or column, then we are going to pay that penalty if we are going to allocate to the next lowest cell. That is the reason we draw out penalties. Now we'll examine. Now we'll see F1 row. You can see this cursor. In this, the lowest value is 5, next lowest is 8. So we'll write here like row penalty. Row penalty, and similarly here we'll write down column penalty. So first we'll write down the row penalties. In this, 5 is the lowest, next lowest is 8. I'll write 3, the difference. Next row we'll examine 2 is the lowest, next lowest is 6 in the F2 row. You see, this is 4. Third row we'll examine 7 is the lowest, 8 is the next lowest, write down 1. Then okay. Now we'll look at the columns and we'll write down column penalty. 5 is the least, 7 is the next least. So I'll write 2 as column penalty. Then in this, 6 is the least, next least is 7. So 1 is the penalty. Here in this case, 2 is the least, next list is 8. So 6 is the penalty. And then here we will see 9 is the least, 10 is the next least, 1. Now after identifying these row penalties and column penalties, wherever we occur highest penalty, in that row or column we have to make allocation. If you examine here 3, 4, 1, here you find 2, 1, 6, 1. So this 6 is the highest. So in this column we have to make allocation. So here we will put arrow mark. That means this indicates that in this column we are going to make allocation. So if you have to make allocation in this column, obviously we will choose the lowest cost cell, that is 2. So here we will see how many units we can allocate. So corresponding to this cell we have 80 units available. Corresponding to this cell we require 85 units. So maximum units we can allocate is 80. So I'll allocate 80. So this is, that means this 80 is exhausted. 80 are available, 80 we have allocated. But out of 85, completely not satisfied, still we require 5 units. So this is first step. But what we need to understand here is, once this is exhausted, either supply is exhausted or demand is completely satisfied, we don't need to take any penalties because they are no longer required. Then again we will go and check 5, 8, same. So again we will write 3. Here in this entire row, since 80 is exhausted, we have no longer any units available. So there is no point in taking any penalties. Now in this we will see same 7, 8. We can make allocation of 1. We will get the difference of 1. 7 to 8, that is 1. Then again column penalties will check. This W1 column we have 5 and 7, 2. And here in W2 column we have 1 because 6 and 7, 1. Then in this we can make allocations in other cells, but what we need to understand here is, since F2 row is not available, we have to exclude that and write the penalties. That means 8 and 10 only have to be taken into consideration, and then the difference is 2. Then here the same 9 and 10, then here the penalty is 1. Among these things, second iteration 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So among these 3 is the highest penalty. So we have to make allocation corresponding to this. So here we will observe the true and where we can make maximum units of allocation with lowest cost. So 5 is the cell, 5 cost is the F1 W1 cell, the lowest cost.